say that he will be in the next Great Weather anthology before passing. I am also proud to say he has a chapbook, Songs from Heaven's Crooked Teeth, with a crazy effing picture in the back. It's $5, or he said if you don't have $5, come and see him and maybe he'll barter services or goods. I have no idea how that all works. He is a poet who reads from his diaphragm, and I love poets who read from their diaphragm. His name is Brian Sheffield.
All right, guys, I'd like to thank first off Thomas Bucaloro for putting all of this on. And by the way, pick up the fucking anthology. It's phenomenal. I have it at home. I read it like every day. It's great. All the poets in there are fantastic. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be reading you guys a series of poems without any pauses or exclamations.
Yes, I love it.
Because what it is it all follows a kind of weird set of themes. And I'm calling this whole set of poems a self-deprecating and neurotic narcissist tries to find himself and God in Monterey and New York and probably fails along with this concept. What? Dear God, I am a queer white man living in a heteronormative white supremacist patriarchy. I am privileged even under the poverty line, and I sit and rise every day. And I have never looked out from behind the set of iron bars. Dear God, right here in America, children die of starvation, yet I was given a card for free. Dear God, I stopped watching television because the spectacle began trickling down my back like an electrical cord attached to my spine. Plus, I can't really afford cable anymore, so there's that. Dear God, Ellen DeGeneres is a beautiful lesbian, but she still insists that a reality of catch can be made better with a basket of free gifts for the audience members of her talk show. Dear God, there are 100 lines here that will never make sense. Dear God, I love to masturbate, will never apologize for it. Dear God, you are sick for watching me jerk off. Dear God, I am not sorry that I wanted to fuck Craig. Dear God, there's no such thing as a blanket of right and wrong. Dear God, my dad's favorite president was Richard Nixon. Dear God, I am literate, and I know how to speak, but small talk with the big teller still baffles and infuriates me. Dear God, I thought I was intelligent until I ate a handful of mushrooms. Dear God, I thought I was sane until I ingested a vial full of acid. Dear God, every building is an erect cock which penetrates the promiscuous sky, and I swear that I've heard them all whisper slut. Dear God, like seriously, have you actually seen that advertisement on the corner of East Houston and Lafayette starring Justin Bieber? Because I have, and every time I pass it by, it desperately makes me want to weep. Dear God, the walls of my house have plenty of room for poetry. Dear God, the Spaniards painted your son white. Dear God, Michelangelo also painted you white within the confines of his skull as you reached a desperate hand to man's lazy finger. Dear God, they say you are love without mentioning the crusades against the pagans, which is really a crusade against Islam, or our crusades against Islam, which is really a crusade for empire. Dear God, you are the master who left his dog 3 days without food or water. Dear God, I am an angry poet drowning in a community of other angry poets. And while I cannot speak for any of them, I can definitely speak for myself. Dear God, I have never really been an atheist, but I believe even more now that if you do exist, then you must have turned your back on us. So now, I turn my back on you. No gods, no masters, no gods, no masters, no gods, no masters. 2. And it's like, sometimes I'm gay and sometimes I'm not, and sometimes I don't really know how to tell people that my sex moves like seasons, and it's sometimes as cruel as April, or as vacant as the sun on a noonday December sky that promises 8 inches of snow in the evening. But damn, is it easy for me to play off it straight when I really need to. And it's like, sometimes I can't say that I want to place my cock somewhere in the cupboard and invite a random man to climb his form easily over my body like an unconquered hill, but tomorrow this statement will be a lie. And it's like, sometimes I just don't want to talk and have created this loud character I have to play, and that's not a real struggle. It's just that everyone feels so awkward around me when I'm quiet, as if we've run out of things to talk about. It's not as if this were a poem, because there's really aren't any There really aren't that many images or beautiful strings of words. Instead, it's more like a confession. I don't think there's any more room for just one more queer and anarchist poet. And it's like, sometimes I feel like I need to get braces, quit smoking, eat better, start working out, study the art of conversation, buy an expensive suit, get my master's degree, find myself a salary position, buy a house, marry somebody, have some kids, maybe even adopt an African or Asian one just to make myself feel like I'm saving some money so that I can prove it to my neighbors, watch a lot of bad television with my spouse, teach my kids how to conform to their gender roles, all that heteronormative white American bullshit. And it's like, sometimes I'm pretty sure I'm a good poet, but for the most part I think I'm pretty shit, not getting that much better. Maybe I should stop, or maybe I'm stuck in that weird desert between amateur and greatness, though for the most part, that just sounds pretty pretentious. 3. Man, I really want a cigarette. I want a cigarette like I want a poem to write. I want a cigarette like I want my fingers to stop tapping, my eyes to stop twitching, my legs to stop bouncing. I want a cigarette like I want the guarantee of my next breath sitting naked at the bottom of a swimming pool with 2 broken legs, staring at the surface like it was some undiscovered painting from Picasso's Blue Period, an obscure cubist rendition of the strange and fracturing sky. I want a cigarette like a screaming child in the supermarket wants her mother amidst the stares of strangers shuffling between aisles for liquor and bread, ignoring the cry like turning metal, grinding against itself to stop everything, end all production and kill all the switches, stop all the clocks because I just really need a cigarette. I'm grinding the edges of my teeth into a dull red nerve and chewing on the tough meat of my sour tongue. I need a cigarette like I will also need an iron lung if I keep going on like this. And even if that machine will breathe for me, I'll still keep asking Ruth to roll me one every time she pulls out those cancerous components like alchemy. I want to dangle the cigarette from my lips like a loose finger, pull in the hot taste of arid smoke and ash, let it burn down my throat like a desert's dry wind, fill the thick membrane of my lungs harden like arteries. I want blood vessels to be fader trucks that beeline nicotine to my brain. I want my clothes to smell like a dive bar at 2 a.m. I want my fingers to carry the memory to my mouth when I think. Want to lay my pack down on the bar like a promise when I drink. Want to sit it between my lips like a muse when I write. Want to talk endlessly and smoke and smoke and smoke and cough when I laugh. Want to dance when I'm drunk and go outside to smoke, complaining to my friends that I need to quit because it's been 10 goddamn minutes and I'm still out of breath. I want a cigarette like an unwritten song wants a melody and a set of lyrics to be sung. Like I want to sculpt the image of a lover from the folds of my brain and project it onto the screen behind my eyeballs. I want a cigarette like God wants so desperately for somebody to tell her she's beautiful and worth loving. And even when cigarettes are running me $12.50 a pack, and each purchase requires an exercise of grief, like the $20 bill I'm about to break in the name of an old friend, printed silently in one of the darker corners of this morning's obituary, I still won't quit. I might smoke less, let half of a cigarette satiate me for an hour, relight it when I'm talking to Stephen on Broadway as he tries to tease a few extra bucks from my pocket for a magazine subscription that supports LGBT rights, crave one as I watch somebody crush theirs under the shadow of mountainous bricks on Allen Street, Manhattan, wake up coughing and think about cars coughing sporadically at intersections of 53rd and 13th, wonder how many people underground might complain if I light one up waiting for the D train in Brooklyn, watch a wheezing mother tug her screaming son like a smoking locomotive down First Avenue, and imagine him growing up addicted to the hot dragon and high, count 23 filters in front of the liquor store on East Houston and understand I'm not the only one set to smoke away a single life as my quick stride slows down after only 2 more blocks. 4. Ignore this line. It's a stolen idea. Well, listen to this one because it's important. Listen to this line with only one side of your head because it's kind of self-conscious about its weight. This line is a little paranoid and is afraid that its new full-time job is becoming a permanent routine, which completely goes against the reason it left Monterey to begin with. This line is awake at 12:06 a.m. listening to Derek Housh's noise music even though it has to wake up in under 7 hours. This line really wants to do acid again. This line wishes it had some marijuana to smoke and were easier to buy out here. And this line would like to smoke it in Manhattan and wander high around Times Square while considering everybody's obscene electric bills and the needless waste of useful resources. This line actually prefers joints to bongs even though bongs can technically get it higher. This line really fucking loves to smoke cigarettes. But this line really fucking hates that it can't breathe the way it could when it was 19 years old. This line feels bad about masturbating sometimes and doesn't like to talk about pornography. This line still tries to believe in God, even though all of its friends are atheists and would probably mock it for doing so. This line completely rejects God and tries even harder to be a good atheist, or at least a decent agnostic. This line has been trying to read more often, but is probably addicted to YouTube videos, and that's just too bad. This line is actually really attracted to most of its poet friends, but can only really tell one of them. This line tried to fuck Craig Bellows, but was rejected because it was drunk and insecure in the shadow box, and then tried to speak Spanish to a restaurant cook that only really wanted to enjoy his beer. This line pretends it doesn't want to cry when it thinks about all of the embarrassing shit it's done. This line still thinks about Francisco, who's newly homeless in Brooklyn, and still cries about it, and told Ben shot at it in drunken, broken English while they were buying 40s on the corner of 66th and 20th that would really be alright if he died. This line once counted its black friends in its mind and then beat itself for doing so, as if that was good enough. This line is afraid of its inner dialogue and honestly wonders how many other people are poisonous in their head. This line calls itself a queer anarchist and a poet so much that it half wonders whether or not it's really only trying to convince itself. Part 5? Yeah, 5. We named ourselves eternal when we saw that we were poets. We named ourselves eternal when we saw that we were anarchists and communists, when we saw that we were lovers, naked and full of hair against monogamy. We named ourselves eternal when we saw no God to praise and so prayed to each other, when we heard that the whole of the Pacific Ocean was giving away prophecies and grains of sand. And so we listened with our toes and let our lips and teeth gossip and sing as Monterey Beach burned around us and the long streets of Seaside burned along the hills as electric runways, as the California coast crawled to our feet like a child, as we plucked the lemon moon out of the sky and let the juice sting our lips and drizzle down our chins like a beard, as we let Del Monte Boulevard be drunk in us, offering the remainders of our cigarettes to its concrete intestines, as we smoked bowls and fell asleep inside each other, waking up 12 hours later dehydrated and apathetic and stumbling entirely too sober, forgetting that we named ourselves eternal the night before. I am in Brooklyn and Monterey, and my arms and imagination are long ropes but cannot tie the two cities together. I've named myself eternal, but both heaven and hell are constructed with routines, and even if I turn myself chaotic, which sometimes I do, then given enough time, everything becomes a pattern. 6. When my age is indistinguishable from all the number of years, and my brain has become vacant, and my blood vessels dry, and my lungs are a vacuum, and my heart is a silent snare drum, and you call me over to die, let me in high. Let me meet you when I'm already an abstract margin. Let me see your kingdom all deliberated and remastered. Let me hear you sing when I can hear my voices sing, when I can see you hanging from the splinters of a bar stool, and know you were also drunk and lonely once, and probably chain-smoked Pall Malls and Alfredos on Pearl Streets. Let me in high when I can listen to the rumbles of New Utrecht's tracks, and see you there as steel foundations, when I can dig up your skull under the ice of Borough Park, when I can see your visions painted in Queens, when I know that you lay your body naked over the city that spills its light in through the windows of the D train between the Atlantic Avenue and Grand Street stops, when I can feel the chill of your wind on East Houston and know that you were really stinging my nose. Let me in high when I can watch all of New York cover me in its music, when Harlem is still all jazz and Hudson River cold, when Manhattan remembers its poetry on Avenue A, when Brooklyn punk fills in the low ceiling of Frank's Underground. Let me in high like the time Michael and I dropped acid in the glass house of our living room and chain-smoked American spirits on the hot gravel of Mar Vista, contemplating the third dimension and deciphering the incomprehensible language of the clouds that dance like loose teeth in the vast expanse of the yawning sky. Or Ali and I on the corner of Dahlia and Buttercup after smoking 2 spliffs, discussing your impossible nature as you also hung there on the burning edge of our Camel Crush, a dim lamppost that was then snuffed out like a prayer by the unrepentant sole of my falling shoe. Let me in high so that I can know that I am you, that my shirt is you, and the threads that constructed my jeans are you, and that my eyelash that hangs and obstructs my vision is you, and that my naked body and my hair that stands at attention on my legs and my toes, and my beard that softly touches my fingers, and the muscle of my limbs, and the layer of fat that softens my guts, and that my genitalia is also you, and that my queer sex drive and attractions, the folds of my brain, the cornea that sketches light into shadows and colors, and my sense of understanding and my perceptions, my subjectivities and my consciousness let me in high so that I can always be high with you and myself forever. Miserere me Deus secundam magnam cordia tuam, et secundam multitudinam miserationem tuarum de iniquitatem meam. Amen. Thank
And that was Brian Sheffield. He's got chapbooks. I want to thank I want to thank Michael O'Connell. I want to thank Matthew Siegel, who has books over there, and I want to thank Brian Sheffield, and I want to thank all of you. I have to say, out of any poetry reading, this is where all the crazies come, and it's a mix of great crazy poets, and I love it. Thank you. We're not here next Sunday because of Easter, so celebrate the rising of Christ. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Have a great night.